Hi everyone, my name is Ray, or some of you might know me as Tiki with Ray, and welcome to the first episode of Straight Edge Tiki. Now, you're probably wondering what the hell is Straight Edge Tiki? Or, what's straight edge? Well, let me tell you. I'm going to put things on Front Street here. I had to stop drinking due to health reasons, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But first, I want to talk about, first of all, what straight edge is and what is straight edge tiki. What straight edge is, it was a movement that was started in the early 80s by the hardcore band Minor Threat. The guy's name was E. McKay, and he started a movement where you had these bands that would sing about not drinking, not doing drugs. And when it comes to like rock and roll, it's all about the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And here was a band that started a movement where they actually sang about not drinking and not doing drugs. And I remember like first hearing about these bands in the early 90s, and I'm like, are they serious? Is it like a joke? But it wasn't. Some of the other popular bands that started the straight edge movement was Youth of Today, Gorilla Biscuits, and so many others. And I really admired that. And actually, in the 90s, I didn't drink. I'll be honest, when I was a teenager, yeah, I snuck some beers behind the bushes here and there, or I had some alcohol, But then like when I got into hardcore music and got into straight edge, I really liked it, and it became a part of my life. I was in a hardcore band in the most of the 90s. We're called No One's Hero. We're based out of Pennsylvania, and our band wasn't straight edge, but I was. And I honestly actually didn't drink for most of my 20s, which would have been the 90s. I moved to New York City in the end of 1999, and living in New York City, it's complete bar culture. How things work is usually no one can really afford to like live in Manhattan. So you end up living in Brooklyn, or you live in Queens, or maybe you're even in Staten Island, but everyone kind of works in the city. So a lot of times what you would do is you wouldn't meet up at someone's apartment. Well, half the time there wouldn't be any room for you to hang out with, because some of these apartments are like really, really small. You'd meet up with people at a bar. Hey, let's meet up at a bar that's in Midtown, after work at like 6 o'clock or something like that. I started drinking. I moved to Seattle, and I'm a musician. I'm playing in bars. And I'm pretty much drinking on a semi-regular basis. I got into Tiki around 2006, and then I started experimenting with cocktails. So that was the first time where I was going out and buying rums and trying to make cocktails at my apartment. And then in 2016, I really, really started to get into Tiki when I started my Tiki with Ray blog, and then Tiki really, really became a part of my life. And if you know me, you know that like this is the way I've always said it about myself. I don't drink a lot, but I drink often, and that's kind of how it's always been. I may not like get totally sloshed or totally hammered, but how many times a week do I drink? A couple. And it's actually been that way for like a long, long time. And for a long time, I really kind of had no problems with it until more recently. And here's what happened. It was last December. I started dealing with really, really bad insomnia. Like I had a night where I wasn't able to sleep. And then one night turned into two nights turned into three, and I guess it's called sleep anxiety. And what would happen is I created this thing where like I wasn't able to sleep, and then like I wasn't having a panic attack, but I'd have like adrenaline surges is what they were calling it, where like my body would just go into that fight or flight mode, and like I couldn't sleep. I couldn't even like lay in bed. And I'd try to go out into my living room, and like I just was so restless. There was like a lot. There was some nights where like I was so restless that I actually would like get in my car and like go for like a drive at like 2:30 in the morning, like on a Tuesday, because I just couldn't stay in my apartment. Other things I started having were like hypnic jerks, and a hypnic jerk is like, you probably experienced this when you're about ready to fall asleep, and then all of a sudden, just kind of at the last moment, your body just kind of does that, which is not uncommon. But I'd have like nights where like I just have that happening the entire night. And what I realized is that this was all alcohol related. I did some research, and I realized that like when you drink alcohol, it's a depressive. It may knock you out, but for some people, well, and what happened to me too, this started a couple of years ago, where like I tried to go to sleep. I'd go to sleep, but then like I'd wake up in the middle of the night, and then I would not be able to get back to sleep. And I learned that was the alcohol. It's like, okay, fair enough. And then what I would make a point to do is I would make a point to not drink right before I would go to bed. And everything was okay. But this turned into like I wasn't able to sleep. And when I realized that it was the alcohol, the decision was very, very simple for me to stop drinking. And I love Tiki. I love Tiki so much. It's my life. And the Tiki drinks are a big part of it. We all know that. And I don't want to get out of Tiki. I'm not going to get out of Tiki. So I thought like, well, how can I enjoy Tiki and still live the Tiki lifestyle without the booze? And then I thought about it. I'm like, straight edge Tiki. Let's combine this idea of like not drinking with Tiki. Can it be done? I'm going to tell you right off the bat, the answer is yes. It can be done. And I have been living an alcohol-free Tiki lifestyle since February. And what this series is going to be is it's going to be exploring Tiki without alcohol. There's going to be a couple different ways and routes that I'm going to take. I'm going to be exploring some rum alternatives. I'm going to be exploring some non-alcoholic spirits, potentially some non-alcoholic cocktails. I'm going to talk about it, and I'll be honest with everything, how things taste. Maybe some videos will be just kind of like talking about being into Tiki but not drinking, and my journey with that. And I really honestly think that there's people out there that I know that are into Tiki that don't drink and haven't drank. And maybe I'll talk to some of those people, and kind of get their story on like, well, what's it like being into Tiki but not drinking? There's so many different routes I'm going to go with this. And if there's people out there that don't drink and are into Tiki, I'd like to get your story. I'd love to have you come on the show. The insomnia that I was dealing with kind of lasted through most of December. And I made some changes. And it wasn't until like a month or two after the fact that I realized like, oh, this is the alcohol that's causing these issues. I had no idea that it was the booze causing my insomnia. But once I realized that it was easy to stop drinking because I knew this is what was happening. And the reason why I'm making this video, I don't really want to talk about myself, but it's just to let people know out there that like, if you're having issues with alcohol and you're having some of these symptoms, to be aware of it. Another reason why I want to make this series is because I think there's some people out there that like they know they should stop drinking, but they don't. But they feel self-conscious about, well, what am I going to drink when I'm at a tiki bar? You know, people feel like, well, I don't want to feel left out, and I want to. Hopefully, I can sort of be an inspiration and be like, well, here's me. I mean, tiki's my life, and if I can still live the tiki lifestyle without booze, you could potentially too. So before I end this video, I want to say that I am not anti-alcohol at all. You know, I if you're out with me, or if I'm out with you at a tiki bar or at your home tiki bar or whatever, I don't want you to feel self-conscious about drinking. Drink for me. Have a Mai Tai for me. Have a zombie for me. And I will say this. I mean, if you have no problems with alcohol and everything's okay, party on. But all I'm asking is that if you do have problems with it, to be honest with yourself and to potentially make the right choices. And I'll tell you what, there are a lot of awesome non-alcoholic tiki recipes that I've had at different places, and I do not feel left out at all without the booze in my cocktails. And I'm excited to go down this road and explore this. Want to support the Tiki with Ray show and look cool doing it at the same time? Then head over to tikiwithray.com and buy yourself a Tiki with Ray shirt. They're only $20. Tony Canepa did the design, and they're screen printed in America.